From VOA Learning English, this is the Economics Report. Hilton Worldwide is selling the Waldorf Astoria Hotel in New York City to a Chinese company for $1.95 billion. The buyer, Anbang Insurance Group, will pay one of the highest prices ever for a U.S. hotel. Hilton Worldwide says it will use the money from the sale to buy other hotels in the United States. As part of the deal, Hilton will continue to operate the Waldorf Astoria for the next 100 years. The Chinese buyer has said it will invest in remodeling the famous property on Park Avenue to bring it back to its historical grandeur. Reports say the deal is the largest for a Chinese company buying a U.S. building. Chinese investors increasingly have become interested in U.S. properties. Homes, especially costly ones, are considered a good investment. The National Association of Realtors says Chinese spending on homes in the U.S. has increased sharply. The trade group estimates that Chinese buyers spent $22 billion on real estate properties in the 12-month period ending in March 2014. That is an increase of 72% over the 12-month period before. Chinese companies are also increasing their interest in businesses outside of the energy and raw material industries. Last year, a Chinese company bought Smithfield Foods, the largest pork producer in the U.S., for nearly $5 billion. China holds about $1.2 trillion in United States Treasury securities. While these investments are safe, they do not give high returns or yields. China has increasingly looked for other ways to invest its huge trade surplus with the U.S. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal. From VOA Learning English, this is the Agriculture Report. A new study says the speed and severity of climate change could cause major damage to small African farms. These farmers are already struggling to deal with the effects of climate change. The study was released at the African Green Revolution Forum in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. David Sarfo Ameyaw was a lead producer of the report. He is a director at the Alliance for a Green Revolution in Africa. He said small farm owners produce about 80% of the food needed in Africa. These farmers grow most of the main crops in Africa on fields from 2 to 10 hectares in size. But small farms in Africa are much less productive than those in other places. Mr. Ameyaw said a main reason is weather. He said most of the African farms are rain-fed. The farmers deal with drought often. The AGRA report says farmers in sub-Saharan Africa are also seeing rising temperatures. Mr. Ameyaw said an expected rise of as much as 2.5 degrees Celsius in the next 35 years will result in smaller harvests. Climate change is also expected to affect the average length of the growing season. This could continue to reduce the already low crop yields from each hectare. Mr. Amayao said experts are urging African farmers to take steps to reduce the effects of climate change. They suggest that small-scale farmers grow new kinds of crops that require less manufactured fertilizer. Other new crops can grow well in times of drought. These include maize, sweet potato, sorghum, soybean, and cassava. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal. From VOA Learning English, this is the Health Report. 5 million American children and teenagers have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, known as ADHD. The condition makes it difficult, if not impossible, to stay with a duty until it is complete. Catherine Ellison knows the problem well. Her son Buzz had many problems in elementary school. He could not be still. He was always jumping up and down in class. He did not pay attention. As a result, his mother says he was always in trouble, and his teachers did not like his behavior. Ms. Ellison did not understand why he behaved the way he did. But when he was 9 years old, doctors identified his problem as ADHD. And like many parents of children with ADHD, Ms. Ellison learned she had it too. Peter Levine is a doctor of children's medicine in California. He specializes in ADHD. He says there are many misunderstandings about the disorder. For example, parents often blame themselves. And he says others also blame the parents. Mr. Levine says the first step in dealing with ADHD is understanding the facts. He says one effective way to deal with ADHD is to change the way you interact with your child. Catherine Ellison did. She and Buzz spent a year researching ADHD for a book they wrote together called Buzz, A Year of Paying Attention. Now, she says they spend more time together. She also says she judges her son less and gives him more praise. Buzz is reacting well to the changes. He has fewer problems at home and at school. And he can pay attention to his schoolwork. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal. From VOA Learning English, this is the Agriculture Report. The World Wildlife Fund says more than half of the world's wildlife population has been lost. The conservation group says this has placed the health of the planet at risk. The WWF recently released its 10th flagship Living Planet report. The group warns the condition of the world's animals is worse than its earlier reports have shown. It says worldwide action is needed. The WWF says it is worried about the loss and damage to Earth's environment. The report provides information about more than 10,000 animal populations from 1970 to 2010. These populations are of vertebrate species or animals with backbones, like fish, birds, mammals, amphibians, and reptiles. The report says these populations have dropped by 52% in just 40 years. It says freshwater species have fallen by 76%. That is almost twice the loss of land and ocean species. Most of these losses are in the tropics. The report says the biggest drop has been in Latin America. Marco Lambertini is the WWF's International Director General. He told VOA that the report is about destruction of natural habitats, or the places where animals live. He gave as an example the change of forests, grasslands, and wetlands into farmland. The report also notes the effect of human activities on the planet. Mr. Lambertini said there has been an increase in the release of carbon dioxide gas. And he said fertilizer used in agriculture is adding to the nitrogen waste in rivers and oceans. Mr. Lambertini said whole species may disappear if the world does not reduce the effects of humans on the climate. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal. From VOA Learning English, this is the Education Report. Today, we offer another report on how to write papers for high school and college. Jennifer Ahern Dodson is a writing teacher at Duke University in North Carolina. She also serves as outreach director and language arts and media program director for the Thompson Writing Program at Duke. Ms. Ahern Dodson says probably everyone has had difficulty writing an essay or paper at some time. She says when writing seems easy, it is usually because the writer has something important to say. Today, the professor gives some tips about how to get those important ideas on paper. Ms. Ahern Dodson says a student should begin to write even before finishing all the research needed for the paper. She says writing about where you are at the moment can help you discover what you want to express. She also says you should note what information other people have already presented about the subject. What points do you find interesting? The professor says this process can help you decide what you want to write to answer what others have said. Or it can help you decide what additional research you might need. Ms. Ahern Dodson also strongly advises working with other writers. She says they can give you feedback on your ideas as you are developing them. She says you can learn from others how well you are communicating your ideas. And you can learn if your writing is interesting. For this reason, Professor Ahern Dodson spends a lot of her time helping students and professors form writing groups. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal. From VOA Learning English, this is the Economics Report. Economists have studied how markets work for a long time. Generally, they work well, but markets do not always perform as expected. Jean Tirole of France won the Nobel Prize in Economics for studying why markets are imperfect or inefficient and what governments can do to regulate them. The Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences announced the $1.1 million prize in Stockholm. It called Mr. Tirole one of the most influential economists of our time. The organization said he had done important research in a number of areas. But, it said, most of all, he has clarified how to understand and regulate industries with only a few powerful firms. A small number of companies that control an industry is called an oligopoly. For about 30 years, Mr. Tirole researched periods when markets failed, that is, when they did not provide good results in price and competition. He looked at how a small number of large companies, or even a single company, can strongly influence industries. Banking and telecommunications were among the industries he studied. The Nobel Committee said that unregulated markets often produce socially undesirable results. They can result in higher prices or companies that use their market position to block others. The committee said it chose Mr. Tirole because he thought about how best to regulate markets. Mr. Tirole works at the Toulouse School of Economics in Toulouse, France. He is 61 years old. The Royal Swedish Academy will honor Mr. Tirole at the Nobel Award ceremony in Stockholm, Sweden, December 10th. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal. From VOA Learning English, this is the Education Report. More and more Africans are using text messages, email, and social media to communicate. In Senegal, educators are using new technologies to teach women to read. The United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, launched the program in Senegal 2 years ago. But UNESCO officials are now expanding it to as many as 6 other African countries. Mariama Dafe sits in front of a television at her home in a community near Senegal's capital, Dakar. She is learning to write and work with numbers. Ms. Dafe started this home study program a year ago when she was 39. The Ministry of Education joined with UNESCO to create these training lessons for literacy, reading, and writing. The program appears daily on state television. Women taking part say these lessons have made them more independent. Mariama Dafe says she can now read and write text messages on her own. Ms. Daffé says the TV programs are easy to fit into her busy life. She studies 3 lessons a week, yet she has a full-time job and a family. At-home study programs are also easy to operate and not costly. That makes them especially useful for a place like Senegal, which has limited money to teach literacy. But some women like the classroom experience. They can study at an elementary school nearby. Mamadou Diallo is a teacher there. He uses a laptop computer and a projector to prepare an interactive display wall. He says the women like to use the wall to solve math problems. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal. From VOA Learning English, this is the Technology Report. When most people imagine a classroom, they think of older people teaching younger ones. But when it comes to learning about high technology devices, the opposite can be true. That is what is happening in the community of Columbia, Maryland. A senior center there offers free technology classes for adults ages 50 and older. The teachers can be teenagers or even children. Myra Stafford is 73 years old. She says her daughter gave her an iPad and has waited a long time to see her use it. So Ms. Stafford signed up for the workshop to learn how. Ms. Stafford says she is learning quickly about the device. She also says she enjoys learning from younger people. 11-year-old Zion Perkins teaches Ms. Stafford. He says that patience is very important when working with older adults. Meredy McCaig is the director of the 50 Plus Center. She says the center offers many other kinds of workshops for older residents of Columbia. The activities include playing cards and physical exercise classes. Ms. McCaig added the Senior Technology Workshop last year. She acted after the center received several iPads from a local community organization. Since then, about 100 senior citizens have signed up for the workshop. Ms. McCaig says the classes are necessary for seniors to connect with the world around them. And the young people get something too, like 17-year-old Madison Lamb. She says she is naturally shy, but she says helping seniors has taught her how to connect better with people. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal.
First of all, I'll say that American education is expensive for Americans. I spent the good part of my 20s working to pay off college loan debt. So American education is very expensive, but you're getting a high quality education from some of the best professors in the world with some of the best resources and facilities in the world. American universities have state-of-the-art laboratories, computers, research systems, classrooms, and all that is expensive. And also in many U.S. universities, you're learning from leading researchers and people who are at the top of the line in their field. So that's also expensive for the universities to have those people as professors. So you're paying for a quality product. That's why it's very expensive. It really depends on the university, what type of financial aid is available. There are a lot of opportunities out there for international students. There are some universities that have merit-based scholarships. Many have scholarships in general for international students. There are athletic scholarships, scholarships based on a specific talent. It really depends on the individual university, but if the student gives themselves sufficient time and really does their research, I think that they can find a university that fits their financial profile, that might have scholarships available, different work opportunities on campus for individual students. I know that rankings matter to a lot of parents and students worldwide, but here in the U.S. we pay very little attention to rankings. The rankings that are produced are actually the opinion of several different magazines. They're not really official government rankings. The U.S. doesn't have a universal ranking system, so the way that we see it is that rankings are just produced by several magazines. Usually the same schools are typically listed as the top 10 or top 20 year after year. So in the U.S. they don't really have that much credibility. With that said, we know that to many families abroad and outside of the United States, rankings are very important. So as a university, we try to make that information available so that students can see our rankings, but I think that they really should understand how little value they have in the United States in terms of determining whether or not a university is a quality institution and if it would offer a very good education. There are many U.S. universities that don't show up on any rankings that are fantastic and have some of the best researchers in the world and best facilities in the world, offering really high-level quality education that students might never hear of if they're just looking at magazines that tell you the top 50 U.S. universities. So I think that international students really need to keep that in mind. In terms of the student visa, I know that that generates a lot of anxiety for many students around the world. And my tip for that would be, as long as you're a genuine student, it's likely that you will receive your visa. When you go for the interview, they're looking for generally 3 things. One, of course, is that you're a genuine student, that you're coming to the United States to study your education program, to get your degree. So when you go into that visa interview, you should really know things about the university that you're going to, why you're going there, why you want to study, what you want to study. That's how you show that you're a genuine student. The second thing that they're looking for is to be sure that you have the finances to cover your educational program. You'll have to submit the same bank documentation that you used in order to get your I-20 to the U.S. Embassy as part of your interview to prove that you're able to pay for your education in the U.S. And then the next thing that they're mainly looking for is to be sure, again, that you're a legitimate student and that you're not looking to move to the United States, that you have a reason to return to your home country, whether it be your family, a home, prospective employment. So if you go into the interview thinking of all of those things and prepare yourself to answer those questions, and that you really are legitimately coming to the United States to get an education, I think that the visa interview will be no problem.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Technology Report. Cameroon is experimenting with Africa's first mobile system to send a heart signal over a wireless network. The system will give much-needed medical assistance to heart or cardiac patients in rural areas. Cameroonian Arthur Zong invented the device called the CardioPad when he was just 24 years old. The device is a touchscreen medical tablet for heart examinations. The results of the tests are sent wirelessly to specialists in other parts of Cameroon. Simplice Momo is a 55-year-old heart patient in a rural area of Cameroon. He said the CardioPad saves him time and money. He said it is too costly and difficult for him to see a heart specialist in the city. There are about 22 million people in Cameroon, but the country only has 40 heart specialists. Most are in the cities of Douala or Yaoundé. Sometimes patients need heart experts who are outside the country. Apollonia Budsey is a nurse at St. Elizabeth Cardiac Center. She said the device will permit doctors to send patients' medical information to specialists in Europe. Arthur Zong started the CardioPad project 5 years ago. He needed training and $45,000. He shared his idea on social media. Cameroonian President Paul Biya saw this and provided money. Mr. Zong also received free online training from an engineering school in India. The CardioPad costs about $4,000. Cameroon has not been able to provide the device to hospitals in need. Most of them lack internet and enough electricity. Mr. Zong said he has had private investors contact him. He said he is interested in investors who share his goal of helping people. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal.